The night wind moved slowly across the savannah, carrying the smell of dry grass, smoke, and old secrets. The moon hung low and red, like a watching eye. In the village of Kumori, drums beat softly, not for joy, but for gathering. People came out of their huts one by one. Old men leaned on carved sticks. Women wrapped in dark cloths whispered to each other. Children were pulled close to their mothers. Firelight danced on mud walls and painted long shadows on the ground. At the center of the village stood Io, a young black woman with calm eyes and a straight back. She did not speak. She did not cry. But her hands trembled slightly at her sides. The elders sat on wooden stools before her. Their faces were marked with age, wisdom, and fear. They had seen many seasons. They had buried many secrets. An elder named Baba Kand, his voice cracked like dry wood, raised his hand. "Why has she returned?" he asked. "Why now?" Murmurs spread like insects in the grass. A hunter stepped forward. His name was Duma, tall and proud, with scars on his arms. He pointed at Io with anger burning in his eyes. "You don't belong with us," he shouted. His voice cut through the night like a spear. Gasps filled the air. Some women turned away. Some men nodded. Io lifted her head slowly and looked at him. Her eyes were dark, deep, and full of memories. Before she could speak, a deep horn sounded from the edge of the forest. One long call. Then silence. The drums stopped. Even the wind seemed to freeze. Everyone turned. From the shadow of the ancient forest, he arrived. No one spoke his name out loud. He walked slowly, his steps heavy but calm. He wore a cloak made of animal skins and old beads. His hair was white like ash, yet his back was straight like a warrior's. His eyes glowed faintly in the firelight, not with youth, but with power. The elders stood up at once. Some villagers dropped to their knees. Others bowed their heads. When he reached the fire, he stopped. The flames bent slightly toward him, as if greeting an old master. Everyone fell silent. Io felt her heart pound. She knew him. She had known him since she was a child. The spirit walker had returned. His name was Obanuru, half man, half spirit, chosen by the ancestors to walk between worlds. He looked at the elders first. "You gather at night," he said, his voice low and heavy. "You judge in darkness. That means fear walks with you." No one answered. Then his eyes moved to Io. And softened. "A child cast away," he said quietly. "A child forgotten." The fire crackled loudly. Memories rushed through Io like a river after rain. Years ago, this same village had laughed. She had danced by the river. Her mother, Queen Nyara, had ruled beside the king, wise and gentle. Io had been loved. Until the night of blood. Until screams filled the palace. Until fire ate the royal hut. Until her mother was dragged away, never to return. They had said it was a curse. They had said the ancestors were angry. They had said Io was the sign. "She brings bad wind," the elders had whispered back then. So they sent her away. A small girl, pushed into the forest with nothing but fear and tears. Only one man had followed her. Obanuru. He had hidden her in the mountains. He had taught her to listen to the wind, to read the drums, to hear the voices of the ancestors in dreams. He had told her the truth little by little. Now she was back. Stronger. Older. And carrying a storm in her chest. Baba Khan cleared his throat. "Great Walker," he said, "this woman brings trouble. The past must sleep." Obanuru's eyes burned. "The past never sleeps," he said. "It waits." A low rumble echoed from the forest. Some said it was thunder. Others felt it in their bones. Io finally spoke. "I did not come to beg," she said. Her voice was steady, but filled with pain. "I came because the ancestors called me." A sharp wind blew through the village, lifting dust and ashes. The fire flared high, glowing blue for a moment. Gasps again. An old woman screamed, "The spirits are near." A hunter ran toward his spear, but Obanuru raised one finger. The hunter froze, unable to move. "Listen," Obanuru commanded. From far away, drums answered, slow, deep, ancient. not played by human hands. Boom, boom, boom. The sound came from the sacred hill where the ancestors were buried. Fear spread like wildfire. Baba Khan's voice shook. What do you want from us? Io stepped forward into the firelight. Her face glowed gold and red. Tears filled her eyes, but she did not let them fall. I want the truth, she said. And I want justice. Silence. Then Obanuru spoke words that made every heart pound. Tonight is only the beginning, he said. What was buried will rise. What was stolen will return. And those who shouted, "You don't belong with us," will face the voices they tried to silence. The wind howled. The fire roared. And in that moment, the village of Kumori knew. Io had not returned as a child. She had returned as judgment. Morning came slowly to the village of Kumori, like a wounded animal afraid to move. The sun rose behind the hills, painting the sky with dull orange and pale red. But no joy followed the light. The night's fear still sat heavy on every roof and every heart. Smoke curled from cooking fires, yet few people ate. Women whispered while grinding grain. Men avoided each other's eyes. Children did not play. The ash tree, old and wide, stood at the center of the village. Its roots twisted like sleeping snakes. It was the place where elders spoke truth and where lies often hid. Under its shade, the elders gathered again. Io stood before them, silent. Her shadow stretched long on the ground, like a second spirit walking with her. Obanuru stood a few steps behind her, leaning on his staff carved with faces of ancestors. Baba Khan spoke first. Last night shook the village, he said. The spirits walked close. This is dangerous. Io's eyes stayed fixed on the tree. Danger was born here long ago, she replied. I only followed its path back home. A murmur moved through the elders. Queen Mirela, the king's second wife, arrived with slow steps. Her clothes were rich, her neck heavy with beads. Her face was calm, but her hands trembled beneath her robe. She looked at Io and frowned. You carry pain, she said softly. Pain can poison a village. Io turned to her. Pain grows when truth is buried. The wind passed through the ash tree, making its leaves whisper like voices arguing. Obanuru struck his staff on the ground once. Enough circles, he said. Let the truth breathe. The elders exchanged fearful looks. A hunter named Duma, the same man who had shouted at Io, stepped forward again. She brings the curse back, he said. Ever since her return, animals avoid our traps. The river runs low. Io looked at him calmly. The land remembers blood, she said. Not my footsteps. That afternoon, Io walked alone through the village. People watched from doorways. Some spat on the ground. Some lowered their heads in shame. A few children stared at her with wide eyes, sensing something powerful. She stopped at the old royal hut. Its walls were burned and broken, left untouched like a wound no one wanted to heal. Black marks still covered the clay. The smell of ash lived there even after many seasons. Io knelt and touched the ground. Memories came again. Her mother screaming. Her father's voice cut short. The crackle of fire. She closed her eyes. A cold breeze wrapped around her, though the sun was hot. You stand where blood fell, a soft voice whispered. Io did not open her eyes. I know, she answered. The voice belonged to an ancestor woman, unseen but strong. The air shimmered like heat over sand. Do you seek revenge or balance? The spirit asked. Io's chest tightened. I seek the truth. What comes after will choose itself. That night, drums beat again, but this time from human hands. The village prepared for the night of stories, a sacred gathering where elders told history to calm restless spirits. A large fire burned in the center. Sparks flew into the dark sky like stars trying to escape. Io sat near the fire. Obanuru stood behind her, watching. One by one, elders spoke of old battles, old kings, and lost queens. Their voices were slow, careful. Then Baba Khan cleared his throat. Sweat shone on his forehead. There was once a queen, he began, wise and loved. Her name was Nyara. Io's heart jumped. She spoke too loudly, he continued. She challenged traditions. She listened to spirits more than men. Gasps rose. Queen Mirela shifted where she sat. Barbican swallowed. The ancestors became angry. Misfortune followed. So we removed the source. Io stood up. Her voice shook, not with fear, but with fire. You burned her alive, she said. You lied to the spirits. Silence fell like a heavy stone. The fire suddenly dimmed. Obanuru stepped forward. The ancestors were not angry, he said. They were betrayed. A strong wind burst through the circle. The flames turned blue again. From the darkness beyond the fire, a shadow formed. Tall. Female. Crowned with light. A scream tore through the crowd. It was Queen Nyara's spirit. Her eyes burned like stars. Her voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. My name was cursed, she cried. My daughter was cast out. Villagers fell to their knees. Some covered their ears. Others wept openly. Queen Mirela screamed and collapsed. Nyara's spirit pointed at the elders. You stole my throne. You feared my power. Then she turned to Io. My child, she said softly. The path ahead is heavy. Io stepped closer to the fire. Tears streamed down her face. I am ready, she whispered. Nyara's spirit faded slowly, leaving behind a cold silence. Obanuru raised his staff. The truth has spoken, he said. Now comes the choice. Before anyone could answer, a loud cry came from the forest. A horn. War. The sound of foreign warriors echoed in the night. Spears flashed beyond the trees. The village gates shook. Io's eyes widened. The elders panicked. And Obanuru spoke words that chilled every soul. The enemy you invited long ago has returned. The horn sounded again, long and cruel. It tore through the night like a warning from the ancestors themselves. The ground seemed to tremble. Dogs barked. Birds burst from trees and vanished into the dark sky. Foreign warriors poured from the forest edge, their bodies painted with ash and red clay. Metal clanged against metal. Their leader wore a mask shaped like a snarling beast. Torches burned in their hands, casting wild shadows across the village walls. Panic spread fast. Women grabbed their children. Men ran for spears and shields. The elders shouted orders that no one followed. Io stood still in the firelight. Her heart beat hard, but her mind was clear. Obanuru moved to her side. Do not fear, he said quietly. This storm was planted long ago. Duma, the hunter, ran past them. We are not ready, he shouted. Our warriors are few. The king's drum sounded, deep and fast, calling all able men. Warriors formed a weak line near the gate. Their hands shook. The foreign leader stepped forward and raised his spear. We come for what was promised, he roared. Barbican stepped out, shaking. There was no promise, he lied. The masked leader laughed. Your dead queen promised us gold, land, and blood in exchange for her silence. Io gasped. Obanuru's eyes burned. Lies stacked on lies, he said. The foreign leader pointed at the burned royal hut. That throne hides our payment. The words struck the village like lightning. Io turned slowly toward the ruined palace. Her mother's spirit had spoken of betrayal. Now the path was opening. Before the warriors could move, Obanuru struck his staff into the ground. The earth groaned. Roots burst from the soil like living snakes, blocking the invaders' feet. The forest answered him. But his strength was not endless. Io, he said, breathing hard. The truth lies beneath the throne. Only blood of the queen may touch it. Io did not hesitate. She ran toward the palace ruins as arrows flew behind her. Fire roared. The air filled with screams, drums, and clashing metal. Inside the broken hut, moonlight fell through the cracked roof. The old throne lay shattered, half buried in ash. Io pushed it aside. Her hands shook as she touched the earth beneath. The ground was cold. She dug with her fingers until they hit stone. A hidden chamber opened with a low cry, like a wounded spirit. Inside lay a carved box wrapped in old royal cloth. As Io lifted it, images flooded her mind. Her mother standing before the elders. Her mother refusing to give something away. Her mother being silenced. Tears fell onto the box. Outside, the battle grew louder. A warrior burst into the hut. It was Queen Mirella, holding a dagger, her face twisted with fear and rage. "You should have died in the forest," Mirella hissed. "Everything was perfect until you returned." Io stood slowly. "You stood beside them," she said. "You wore my mother's crown." Mirella laughed bitterly. "Power does not wait for ghosts." She raised the dagger. The wind howled. The box shook in Io's hands. Suddenly, a voice rose from it. Deep, many, ancient. "Enough." The dagger fell from Mirella's hand. The box opened by itself. A sacred object glowed inside, a spirit-bound royal drum, small but powerful, carved with symbols of protection and truth. Mirella screamed. "That drum binds kingdoms. With it, your mother could speak to all ancestors." "Yes," Io said softly. "And you sold its secret." Mirella dropped to her knees. "We needed protection. The foreigners were coming. The elders chose survival." Io's face hardened. "You chose fear." She lifted the drum. Outside, everything stopped. Weapons froze mid-air. Drums went silent. Io stepped out of the palace holding the glowing drum. The foreign warriors fell back. Obanuru knelt. So did the elders. Io struck the drum once. Boom! The sound rolled across the land like thunder. Ancestors rose in the wind, voices, shadows, lights. The sky darkened. The forest bent low. Queen Nyara's spirit appeared beside Io, proud and calm. "My daughter has found the truth," she said. "Now the price must be paid." The foreign leader tore off his mask in fear. "We were promised power," he screamed. Nyara's spirit pointed at the elders. "You fed fear. Fear fed war." The ground cracked. The river roared in the distance. Obanuru spoke, his voice heavy with sorrow. "The turning point has come. Justice cannot be delayed." Io looked at the elders, men who once judged her. "Tomorrow," she said, "the village will face its sins." Thunder answered her words. And deep in the mountains, something ancient awakened. Dawn did not bring peace. The sky over Kumori was dark and heavy, as if the sun was afraid to rise. Clouds hung low. The wind smelled of rain, iron, and old anger. The ancestors were awake. The village stood silent. No drums. No songs. Only fear. In the center of the village, a great circle was drawn with white ash. This was the circle of judgment, used only when the land itself demanded truth. Many villagers had never seen it before. Io stood at the circle's edge, holding the royal drum close to her chest. Its surface glowed softly, breathing like a living heart. Obanuru stood beside her, his face tired but strong. "What happens today will break or heal this land," he said. Across from them, the elders arrived slowly. Barber Kand leaned heavily on his staff. Queen Mirella walked between guards, her wrists bound with rope. Her eyes were hollow. The villagers gathered around, forming a wide ring. No one spoke. Even children understood this was not a day for noise. Io stepped into the ash circle. The wind stopped. She struck the drum once. Boom! The sound spread through the village and into the hills. The earth answered with a low hum. "Let truth stand," Io said. Obanuru raised his staff. "Ancestors, witness us." The air shimmered. Shadows formed behind Io, warriors, queens, hunters, women, and children of long ago. Their eyes glowed like embers. The ancestors had come. Barber Kand fell to his knees. "Mercy," he whispered. Io looked at him. "Where was mercy when my mother burned?" The drum beat again. Boom! The ash circle glowed white. Suddenly, Barber Kand cried out. His voice changed, becoming younger, sharper. "I was afraid," he screamed. The foreigners demanded the drum. They promised peace if Queen Nyara stayed silent. Images appeared in the air. Nyara standing proud. The elders surrounding her. Fire being prepared. Villagers gasped. Some screamed. Others covered their faces. Queen Mirela began to sob. "I wanted to live," she cried. "I wanted power. I chose the winning side." Io's hands trembled, but she did not stop. "Truth does not fear tears," she said. She struck the drum again. Boom! The earth cracked beneath the ash circle. From the cracks, red dust rose like blood turned to smoke. The ancestors spoke as one. Balance must be paid. Suddenly, a cry came from the forest. The foreign warriors charged again, desperate and wild. They rushed toward the village, weapons raised. Io turned, lifting the drum. Obanuru shouted, "This is the test." Io closed her eyes. She beat the drum 3 times. Boom! 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 The sky broke open. Rain fell hard and heavy. Lightning struck the ground between the village and the invaders, forming a wall of fire and light. The foreigners fell back, screaming. Their leader dropped to his knees. "Forgive us," he begged. "We followed greed." Io's voice carried across the storm. "Leave this land. Never return." The ancestors roared. The invaders fled into the forest, swallowed by darkness and rain. Silence returned. But the trial was not over. Io faced the elders again. "The land is safe," she said. "Now answer the ancestors." The ground beneath Baba Kand opened slightly. He cried out in terror. "I confess," he screamed. "We chose fear over truth. We killed our queen." The ancestors moved closer. Queen Nyara's spirit stepped forward, calm and powerful. "My people," she said. "Justice is not revenge." She looked at Io. "My daughter must choose." All eyes turned to Io. Her chest burned. Rage fought with sorrow inside her. She remembered hunger in the forest. Lonely nights. Her mother's scream. She lifted the drum, then lowered it. "Exile," Io said. "Not death." Gasps filled the air. "The elders will leave Komori," Io continued. "They will wander and carry our shame. The land will heal without blood." The ancestors murmured approval. Baba Kand collapsed, weeping. Queen Mirela screamed as guards pulled her away. The ash circle faded. The rain slowed. The sun finally broke through the clouds. Obanuru smiled faintly. "You chose balance." But far away, deep in the mountains, a dark shadow watched. Not all spirits were pleased. And revenge still whispered in the wind. Peace did not last. For 3 days, the village of Komori tried to breathe again. The elders were gone, walking into exile with bowed heads. The foreigners had fled. The rain had washed away blood and ash. But the land was restless. At night, dogs howled for no reason. Fires flickered without wind. Shadows moved where no bodies stood. The ancestors were quiet, but something else had begun to stir. Io felt it. She stood by the river at dawn, the cool water touching her feet. Mist rose like spirits leaving the earth. The royal drum rested beside her, silent but heavy. Obanuru approached slowly. His face was troubled. "The balance you chose saved the living," he said. "But anger still lives among the dead." Io frowned. "My mother is at peace." "Yes," he replied. "But others are not." That night, the moon turned pale, almost white. Drums beat from the mountains, wrong drums. Fast. Hungry. Villagers woke in fear. From the forest, figures emerged, spirit warriors, their bodies dark like smoke, their eyes burning red. They carried broken spears and shields marked with old symbols. They were the spirits of warriors who died long ago, sold to enemies by the same elders who killed Queen Nyara. They had come for revenge. Villagers screamed and ran. Io ran toward the center of the village, the drum in her arms. Obanuru followed, shouting ancient words. The spirit warriors surrounded the ash tree. The air froze. Fire went out. Darkness swallowed the stars. A deep voice rose from the spirits. No balance. Only blood. Io stepped forward. Her legs shook, but her voice did not. "You were betrayed," she said. "I ended the betrayal." The spirits laughed, a sound like cracking bones. "You let them live, the voice roared. We demand death. The ground split. Flames rose. Obanuru fell to one knee, coughing blood. His power was fading. Io, he gasped. This choice is yours alone. The spirits rushed forward. Io lifted the drum and stopped. She saw herself becoming what they were. A slave to anger. She closed her eyes and did not strike the drum. Instead, she began to sing. Her voice was soft at first. A morning song, one her mother used to hum by the fire. The melody floated through the darkness like light through water. The spirits slowed. Io sang of loss, of betrayal, of stolen lives. Tears fell from her eyes onto the earth. The ancestors answered, not with thunder, but with wind. Queen Nyara's spirit appeared again, glowing gently. My child, she said, revenge feeds the same fire as fear. Io sang louder. She stepped into the circle of spirits, unafraid. I carry your pain, she said. But I will not carry your hatred. The spirits screamed. One by one, their weapons cracked and fell. Their red eyes faded. They knelt. The ground closed. The darkness lifted. Silence returned. Obanuru collapsed. Io caught him. The royal drum cracked down the middle, its glow fading. Obanuru smiled weakly. The drum's power ends when its lesson is learned. He closed his eyes. The wind carried his spirit gently away. The village wept. But the land finally rested. Io stood alone at dawn, holding the broken drum. She knew the final step still waited. The sun rose quietly over Komori, soft and golden, like a promise whispered instead of shouted. For the first time in many seasons, the morning felt light. Birds returned to the trees. The river flowed clear and calm. The land had stopped trembling. But the village was heavy with loss. Obanuru's body lay beneath the great ash tree, wrapped in white cloth. Around him, villagers gathered in silence. No drums were played. No horns were blown. Only the wind spoke, moving gently through the leaves. Io stood at the front, holding the broken royal drum. The crack down its center was deep. Its power was gone, but its meaning remained. She knelt and placed the drum beside Obanuru. You carried me when I was nothing, she whispered. Now rest. As the sun climbed higher, elders from nearby villages arrived. Hunters, queens, warriors. They had felt the shift in the land. When Komori called, they came. A fire was lit, not for judgment, but for renewal. Io stepped forward. Her voice was calm, but it carried far. Many seasons ago, she said, this land chose fear over truth. Fear burned a queen. Fear sold warriors. Fear cast out a child. Murmurs moved through the crowd. She raised her hand. Fear did not save us. It poisoned us. She looked at the children sitting near their mothers. If we bury truth, she continued, it will rise as curses. If we silence voices, they will return as spirits. If we choose revenge, it will eat us from inside. The wind stirred. Queen Nyara's spirit appeared one final time, faint but peaceful. My daughter has spoken well, she said. Let the land remember correctly. The spirit faded into light. Io turned to the people. I will not rule as queen, she said. Gasps filled the air. I will not carry a crown built on blood, she continued. This land does not need another ruler. It needs keepers of truth. She broke the drum fully in two and placed the pieces on the ground. The age of fear ends today. Together, the villagers dug a deep hole beneath the ash tree. They placed the broken drum inside, along with the staffs of the exiled elders and the weapons of the fallen spirits. They covered it with earth. Io planted a young tree above it. This tree will grow with honesty, she said. When it falls, we will know we have failed again. Days passed. Komori changed. Stories were told openly. Children were taught the truth of Queen Nyara, not as a curse, but as a protector. No voice was silenced. No judgment was hidden in darkness. Io became a walker, like Obanuru once was. She traveled between villages, carrying stories, not weapons. When people asked her name, she said simply, I'm Io. One evening, she returned to Komori and stood at the village edge. A young boy ran to her. Are you staying? She smiled softly. I belong everywhere truth is welcome. As she walked away, the wind followed her gently. And the land listened. Moral lesson. Fear creates monsters. Silence feeds injustice. Revenge destroys both the guilty and the innocent. But truth, spoken with courage, can heal even the deepest wounds. And a child once told, "You don't belong with us," can grow into the voice that saves everyone.